Hi everyone, and a massive welcome to a very exciting episode here on InfoSec Live of the CISO Experience, where we get to chat with security leaders about their experiences in the industry with a live Ask Me Anything with you, our awesome audience. But before we begin, for those who haven't tuned in before, my name's Simon Lindstead. I'm the founder of the InfoSec Live community and also your host for this show. And by sharing stories and best practice over the last few months, it's led to 45,000 views and over 8,000 hours of our content being watched on YouTube by you, our amazing subscribers. So a huge thank you for your engagement. And if you'd like to support the wider InfoSec Live community, or indeed buy me a cheeky decaf coffee in my Coffee with Jay mug, we do have a few ways you can show your appreciation. First up, the ability to purchase super stickers in the chat if you'd like your question bumped up to the top, and 3 tiers of membership allowing you to show your support in any way that you can. And if you want swag, we've got you covered now with a brand new YouTube store. Link is at the top of the page here. But whether you join or not, being here and engaging with our content is what really matters. So if you're watching this live, please do like and subscribe. We want to make these events interactive, so make sure you drop any questions in the chat. After all, it is you, our audience, who make these events so special. And if you're a security leader and you'd like to be featured in this series, please do reach out to me through either LinkedIn or the InfoSec Live community. But today, I'm honored to be joined by Evgeniy Kharam. Evgeniy is a cybersecurity professional who's had the opportunity to spend more than 40,000 hours providing pre- and post-sale support as an architect and principal consultant in various technologies. He's worked with medium to large enterprise level customers, ranging in size from 500 to 100,000 employees. He's very passionate about cybersecurity technology, vendor relationships, and architecture. He believes in connected infrastructure, a significant need for vendor consolidation. I'm with you there, Evgeniy, and the ability for security control to integrate and share information. He brings much knowledge about VAR, MSSP, and technical pre-sales, and as a result, he's become proficient in speaking on most cybersecurity technical domains. Plus, more interesting for me, he's taking networking to the next level next week with a snowboarding conference for the industry's leadership. Very excited for this one, folks. Let's bring him on. If I can find the video, here it is. Brilliant.
So I need to make sure I have this correct swag, for the
You
snowboard
wear
conference.
these all the time. I'd just like to point that out.
Of course,
Every time I've spoke to you, you've had the goggles on, Evgeniy.
So kudos on the swag. We can compare swag. I think mine is also awesome, even though I don't sell them. But I think they're quite cool.
It's very good. I'll have to show Jay's because he makes me show this on every one. Otherwise, he picks on me constantly. I understand you've already had a chat with Jay, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm going to send you my mug as well to make sure the next time you show my mug, okay?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah, we can have a mug off.
Yeah, I can talk to Jay that his mug is, all generation. I mean, we're moving to a new generation.
Is yours, is that one big as well? Because this is a very large mug. It keeps a lot of coffee perfect.
It's elastic one, so it can expand as we need.
Lovely. Love that. It's the best. Evgeniy, look, thank you very much for taking the time to come on. Before we dig into some questions, I mean, I want to get back to what actually a security architect does a bit later. But before we go on to that, give us a bit about your background and how you've got into the industry. Where have you come from?
Thank you. I have a quite interesting, I guess, story of past, because majority of the people I know kind of moved to being in IT and then moved to cybersecurity. And I kind of almost dropped to cybersecurity right away. I began my career in the Navy, in Israeli Navy, when you just variety of stuff, basically helping and supporting different navigation systems. Cannot really talk about more about what they do, but it's a Navy. When I was done with the Navy, when I learned Linux, Windows a bit, and many other different things, I started to work at Checkpoint. So I started to work as they call them right now, a 30 years old startup. And I did QA. I did quality assurance and testing of firewall systems. So a person that pretty much knew a bit of Linux, a bit of Windows, understood how OS working, started to work with security protocols, understanding of traffic flow, understanding of how actually firewalls inspect the traffic. For me, this was the beginning of cybersecurity. And then 2 years later, when I moved from Israel to Canada, when I started to work at a company called Horjovic Group, you guys probably familiar with Robert Horjovic as part of the Shark Tanks in the US, I started to work with customers. So I coming from a vendor society where I used to do debugging of firewalls to work with real customers that actually use the product, that not allow people to reboot the firewall every time they want. That every time if you down, that they actually have penalties and they lose money. So my mentality very, very quickly changed because I realized what I used to be in a lab and what I used to do and what does the customer expect is completely different.
Yeah.
The idea of change management, that you need to write and explain what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, what's going to be the risk, how long potentially the network will be down. I didn't realize everybody going to be blaming me because I'm the guy that's touching the firewall. And of course, if the firewall is down, everybody blaming you. Or if something doesn't work, people just blame the firewall or somebody probably changed something on the firewall. This is why it's not working. So that was the kind of the beginning of my career, and I did it for a number of years. I moved on to manage the team of professional service folks, very, very bright and smart people that will go to customers and help them to do deployment of firewalls on network security equipment or upgrade systems as well, or potentially include new features for the customers. And I had this interesting opportunity to work with a variety of such teams. So I did network security, I did endpoint security, I did SIEM security, information event management, a bit of cloud as well. So kind of touch a lot on the different vendors. And what I realized very, very quickly, there is no way for me to be proficient and guru to deploy all of them. It's just not going to work.
No.
They all move so quickly that I'm going to just lose this battle. But if I understand how they work, how they interact, how the architecture is working, this I can do. And because I already had the very deep understanding of protocols, of TCP/IP, of routing, of networks, it didn't require me a lot of time to kind of jump on a higher level, understand how stuff work. I may didn't know all the bells and whistles and all the buttons and how to configure everything, but I knew a lot about many different appliances and vendors, how they interact and work together. And it helped me to become an architect and helped me to work with customers to explain to them when they're going to buy a solution, how it's going to look like. Not just features, how it's actually going to work with everything else. And I kind of left this motto with me for a very long time. And I'm still a very, very big believer that we cannot just sell something a la carte, not just a steak and then you buy your salad on the side. You need to sell the complete meal. You need to have all the nutrients. You need to explain when you sell a SIEM, how it's going to load balance the logs, how it's going to connect to different systems, how it's going to interact with the firewalls, with endpoint security. If this particular SIEM will be on the cloud, on-prem, you're going to change the definition. Maybe the logs will be encrypted or unencrypted. And this has led to me to become an architect and start helping our enterprise customers when I used to work in Harjovi Group to understand the complete picture. And I moved and
Can I just jump? Can I just jump in
Yeah,
for people who are reasonably new to the industry? The whole term architect, I mean, for me, it means something completely different from working in investments and financial services. Just tell our audience, for those who don't know, what the role is of a security architect.
So it's going to be depend on who do you ask, because it's going to be very, very, very different. You could call it solution architect, but basically is the people they need to architect how something will work. If we take buildings, is the people not building the buildings, but they design and architect everything there. Now they may outsource certain features. Hey, you build the wood, you decide the paint, but the overall structure will be done by architects. In case of network security or security in general or network as well, there's a lot of touch base between security and IT. So let's say we want to design a new office. We will need to have a network piece. We need to have a security piece. We need to understand how it's going to be all load balanced, because we want to have an availability. We need to understand the requirement from the company. Oh, okay, how much actually availability we need? If this particular office or particular network will go down, it's going to be okay. If not going to be okay, it's going to cost you more money. So it's not just the technical role, it's also the financial aspect, because it's kind of easy in a way to build very cool network and redundant, but then it may cost you a ton.
Yeah.
Now, how do you balance between the cost, the availability, and the features you get is important. Now, architects also the one that will go to a business and say, hey, business, what are we trying to do? What do you want to do? Oh, we want to protect this network to have a better email security solution, for example. Okay, what are the business needs? Why do we need a better email security solution? Does we want to protect from spam and malware, or we also need to understand to protect our customers? So they will get the business requirements and translate them to basically technical tasks. We also work with engineering because they will need to interact with many, many different people. If the solution architect people design the system, then somebody else probably going to build the system. Could be the engineering, professional services, and then they're going to be people that are going to be actually using the system every day. So these people that will do maintenance, will do day-by-day changes, also need to understand what's happening and need to be comfortable to make the changes, like the system, understand that it's easy to use. We usually call them operation people. So in a different company, the architects will have a different roles, but in majority of the cases, they are the glue that connect between multiple cases and multiple people to have a complete solution on a higher level and low level as well.
How important or how useful was the management experience you had prior to doing this role? Do you find that that's helped you dealing with people at all different levels, or was it just a period of your life you'd rather forget about?
Oh, definitely, yes. All of the above. Honestly, managing people is not easy, that everybody knows. And there is a big difference between management and leading people as well.
Yeah.
Managing is basically do what I say, not what I do. And leading in my mind, let me show you by example how stuff need to be done. And
100%.
I'm not just telling you what to do. I also going to do it with you, and I'm going to support you. And when stuff will not work, because it's not going to work, and you're going to be waking up at 4 a.m. at 3 a.m. to help you people, you need to help you people. In my mind, if you're a leader,
Yeah.
if you're a manager, you may say, So there's a bit of a different things here between leading people and explaining people. And basically, in my version of the leadership, is I want people that are working with me to become a better version of me, because they hope smart doesn't mean so many different ways, because the idea is to hire smart people, not just people that are different. So that helped me to interact with people, because when you're working with customers, when you're working with different people, in a way you're mini managing them. Maybe not for a year, but you may manage them for a day.
Yeah.
Maybe let them know what to do. So you need an approach. Some people will have a big ego, some people will not. And you need to tell them to understand, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take your role.
You're not a threat.
Definitely helped me. Yeah, it definitely helped me later on when I'm doing high-end consulting and working with VPs, SVPs, and CISOs, and we will come and help them to have a better cybersecurity program to explain and navigate that we're here to help. And I called it soft skills. And soft skills, you cannot just learn from the book. You can have ideas, but you need to interact with people, understand how is it going to react.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the point there, you can't learn it from a book, is 100% spot on. The only counter argument to that would be you can learn it. And I've had this from a lot of people who are perhaps typically introverted, who said they really struggle with it. But it's the same as anything. With practical practice, you can improve and you can get better, can't you? Shall we? I know I've taken you off track a bit from your journey. So before we come back to soft skills, because I want to dig into that a little bit more, just go back to where we were on the journey.
Yeah. So I did this for quite a long time, and I slowly moved to, it was basically solution architecture / pre-sales, because the role was to work with our sales team in Herjavec Group and understand how we can position the services Herjavec Group had to our customers. So I will use to fly a lot to our customers, to our meetings, and present, okay, this is our managed services, this is what we're going to do, this is how it's going to work for you. And in many cases, it will be, here's our endpoint security, here's our firewall management system, here's our SIEM, here's vulnerability management, and my role will be to explain how all this work together, while people that work with this particular technology will able to go very, very deep on one particular technology.
So do you get involved in the recommendation of those different parts of technology? Yes. You do? Yeah. Okay.
Not just recommendations. Many times I'll come and customer says, we want to buy a new firewall. We want to buy a new endpoint security. And my role will be to understand, okay, why, what you're trying to replace, what not working right now. Let's build requirements before we go to POC, proof of concept. Let's understand what you're actually going to test. I don't want you to spend 6 months to just testing different solutions without scoring them. And then I'll go back to a drawing board, understand the customer requirement, understand what needs to be done, and then provide several solutions that are going to meet their bill, meet their requirements. Like even right now, in my current role, I'm helping MSSPs to choose solutions, managed service providers. And in many times they have particular requirements. We need the solutions to be in Canada. We need the solutions to potentially be deployed in our system, or we need the solutions to work on Linux or Windows.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. A couple of things you said there. First question, actually, what's the biggest challenge you're seeing at the moment in the marketplace from leadership, from the CISOs you speak to? What's the biggest headache, or is there more than one?
There is more than one. I think the CISO profession is very, very important. And in many cases, there's a kind of a very dynamic part here. Are the CISO supposed to be technical or supposed to be business oriented? And there's many, many views on this. But the part that I think is a challenge, that every vendor right now wants to talk to a CISO and sell them something. And there's 4,000 vendors on the market. And CISO's job is to help the company to become more resilient.
Yeah.
And ideally move them from putting down fires to start projecting and building what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they don't really have time to look on this. And I mentioned before about connected.
Yeah.
So majority of the vendors still come and say, hey, look, my phone is the best phone ever. But they don't spend time to understand, oh, my phone will actually interact with all your other systems, how it's going to work, and be more holistic. And I think there's a lot of noise happening on the market, a lot of buzzwords, and we of course see the moment somebody got hacked or some new problem happen, everybody come and say, if you buy my solution, then everything will be solved. So there is, I think we need to go back to the basics.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. We cannot buy a very fancy vulnerability management solution for our cloud if I don't know my assets.
Correct.
For example.
Yeah.
We cannot just say, oh, I'm going to buy this next antivirus solution if I don't understand what I have right now. What are you going to replace? What are you going to do? So creating better ROI for the companies, understand actually what is the problem, helping them with the business cases, or streamlining what they have. I wish this is where the industry will go, and not just create a lot of buzz with marketing words that doesn't mean anything, or beside AI, ML, first, pioneer.
Let's stay with that, because in your intro, the C word, different C word to what some people might think, consolidation was in there. And as you just said, there's 4,000 products in the market at the moment. If you look at any industry cycle, I mean, the cybersecurity or the information technology security industry is reasonably new still. We're going through a period of exponential growth where we've had thousands of products come on the market, many of which do exactly the same thing. Do you think over the next year or two, we're going to start to see more consolidation?
No.
No.
Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, no. Everybody still wants to have their own company. Everybody still wants to create their own solution. We will see consolidations of company going to acquire products, definitely. So we'll see companies will be acquiring. So it's going to be this consolidation, but it doesn't mean we're going to have new companies. So we're going to have certain companies being acquired. We're going to have new companies building something else, because everybody wants to have their idea, or basically they sold their startup and now they are starting a new startup.
Yeah.
So there's going to be consolidation on one side, but it doesn't mean we'll have less vendors. There's one thing about consolidation. We're not going to have 3,500 vendors next year. We're going to have 4,200 vendors next year, probably.
Okay, that leads me to the question: how does the leadership in the industry cut through all that noise, especially for newer CISOs and newer leaders who haven't got that established network of trusted professionals? How are they meant to work out? As you rightly said, their job is dealing with the business concerns, making sure it's secure and meeting its objectives. They haven't got time to meet with 20 vendors a week. What can they do?
So my personal view, and I think it's a bit hard to do, but I think depend on the size of the company. So if you're a CISO for a company that 200 people, you can probably be much more technical and do a lot by yourself. Yeah. If you're 1,000, 5,000, or you 20,000, you have less and less time to dive in to technologies. So in this case, the CISO not always need to bring what they had before. If they experience CISO, oh, I used to like Palo Alto, Checkpoint. They're going to use Checkpoint today. And they need to come and ask their networking teams, their endpoint teams, their vulnerability management teams, their OPSEC team, hey guys, what is working for you right now? What do you wish you want to change? So basically do internal discussions and internal conversations of understand what's not working right now. what you wish will be better. And this includes operation, because it uses day by day, engineering, and maybe even the users just see it day by day to create them, and kind of give some responsibility to people internally to tell what they need and create a better understanding of requirements. Because in majority of the cases, people going after the hype and they're not asking for requirements. So if I created a very good requirements of what exactly I need, and then I know there's 25 custom companies. So for example, me and Dimitri have a security architecture podcast where we interview a lot of people and
Well,
vendors in the site.
got the link for that. Let me drop it
Yeah.
in. Hold on.
So our next seasons will be about cloud security. Literally, in a couple of days of research, we found more than 28 vendors in the space. Now, like, oh my God, what are you going to do about this? How are they going to understand this? And by the way, we're rebuilding the website. So I hope when the new seasons is going to have already a new website. But if I build my requirements and now Simon is trying to sell me his fancy new cloud security solution, I can say, Simon, here's an RFI. Here's what I do. Here's what I need. Answer this. And if you cannot answer this in a good way, okay, you're done. You're done. You're done. So I can relatively easy cut. Again, I don't need to have an RFPs and RFIs for 200 pages. I can at least understand the first part and move and cut the noise right away. Now, definitely we have companies like Gartner and other companies that provide some feedback there. Now, maybe people say, okay, Gartner is paid, Forrester is paid, but if you combine many of this and you also include the boutique firms, not just Gartner, then you will create a much better view, because there's many people in the industry, and I do it myself as well. I help companies to choose solutions to cut through the noise before they go in sync. This is why companies like Gartner were created, to help companies understand. And I'm not promoting here one company or another, but there is external analysts that can help you understand what's happening. But first of all, understand why you're doing this. Just compliance, or you have a technical requirement as well.
Do you know there's been a phrase that you've used right from the start, going all the way through your career, and for me, not knowing you very well, I think it's a clear indicator of why you're very, very good at your job and you're very successful, and that is understanding your customer. And
Yes.
I think, which seamlessly links us on to the next topic I wanted to talk about, which is soft skills. Because if you don't know how to ask open questions, you don't know how to build rapport with people, you're never going to find the answers to the questions that you need on what drives the business, what drives the individuals, and as you rightly said a moment ago, what gaps and what challenges have they got at the moment. So rather than coming in and thinking, like you said, I used this before, we'll shove that in there, we'll shove this in here. It's about building relationships, right?
Mm-hmm. And absolutely right. For the last several years, I call it high-end consulting, whatever you call it. We did basically workshops with very, very big customers. And it's very, very important. And I used it before as well. I can ask, hey, do you like your firewall? What's the answer? Yes. No, I hate it.
Closed
But if I ask,
question. Yeah.
but if I ask you, Simon, can you please describe me your firewall experience? Then you have
Yes.
to actually think
Yes.
about it. You cannot say yes, no, you tell me to. You have to actually, what?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not so good, but most of the time it's okay. We hate it on the cutovers, so you need to open up.
Yeah.
And it's helping a lot to understand what's happening. But the same techniques can be used when you, as a vendor, talking to a customer, or as your customer talking to a vendor, or if your customer talking internally, because you don't want to understand if people understand what they're doing, if they have correct processes with the solution. And I hear echo. I don't know if it's me or someone else.
I can't hear one. But
Okay.
it's those goggles.
Probably the goggles. Yes, let's blame the goggles.
So while we're talking about rapport building, a lot of the noise we hear from CISOs is the irritation they have from the cold messages they receive in their inboxes and some of the awful approaches I've heard of from vendors out there who seem to want to do everything that you're telling people to not do, which is try and sell someone something before you've actually understood your customer. Now, very easy for me to stand here and say this, but there comes the next challenge. How do vendors get in front of the leadership to start to build those relationships?
So here's a small piece of advice that if you're a vendor listening to this right now, or people that are talking to customers a lot, you can use it very, very, very easy. So let's say you jump on a call with me, Simon, and I'm trying to sell you this amazing phone, okay, that I have, and I don't really care, I only like the camera and the phone. So I can say, Simon, let me show you the presentation and the demo about my amazing phone, because this majority of the time, this is what people do, because the salesperson spent hours to building the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
The sales engineer spent hours building his VM environment to show you how it's working. And everybody, of course, want to show because they spend so much time and it's so awesome. Now, how often we ask, Simon, we're going to have half an hour together. I can show you a demo. I can show you a PowerPoint. We can just talk about architecture. What is the best use of your time?
Well, it's funny you should ask, but I need a new phone.
But
yeah, I completely agree. It's framing, isn't it? It's positioning.
It's framing, positioning. Yeah. Now, here's an interesting part. Let's go to deeper in the Pandora box. Because if the customer says, I don't really know, show the beyond, it's like, why are we here? Like if you are, and again, I'm talking about enterprises more.
Yeah.
If you're going to SMB, maybe it's a different story. But I'm talking about more bigger companies. If you don't know what you want, if you don't know, and we're going back here to a bit of how people get information. Some people like to read, some people like to listen, some people need to scribble. This is why in the army, when they're teaching us, they tell you, here's the gun, this is how it's working, repeat after me, take the gun, shoot the gun. So we do everything. So everybody consumes information differently. So if mature people don't know how they want to understand how your product is working, why are we on this call? Why are we wasting our time? Thank you very much. Let's move on. Let's talk to customers that actually want our solution.
And I think that's a really good point, is understanding the way people engage. And you're the first person who's actually said this on the show. I did a mini course in the InfoSec Live community about a year ago on soft skills. And a part of that was learning what kind of person they were. So are they an auditory learner? Are they a visual learner? Are they a feely learner? And again, the more you can start to be aware of and engage and actually pay attention to what people are doing, how they're acting, how their body language is, what phrases they're using, what terminology they're using in the conversation, you can then start to mimic that in a small way, or mirror that is probably a better word, which then helps to build that rapport, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's not faking it. You just kind of adapt to the other person, and you want to understand. And this, I think, helps a lot of people to better communication. Also, research, understand who is Simon, what Simon did before. We have LinkedIn, we have many different things. All the small things helping you to understand who you are. When I was working in the Horjive group, there was a cool company called Manager Tools, and they created a way to help managers to connect with people in different levels. But one of the things they did is like you need to have one-on-one with people every week. And this one-on-one, it's half an hour. When you talk about yourself, they talk about themselves, and you talk about join things together. But the idea and the focus was try not to talk about work. Try to understand about who is Simon. Does Simon has kids? Does Simon like snowboard and skiing? Try to connect with them. Let them understand that they will able to open up to you later on. You can find time to talk about the project and the completion of the project.
This it's like we've planned this, because this is a bit seamless. So a couple of quick plugs here, one for me and one for Evgeniy. So everything that you're saying there is the reason why I've launched the new series of in-person events. So to draw away from the sales pitches and give people, we had our first one in Cambridge last week, where we had 37, I think, leaders come together, relaxed environment, beer, pizza, a little bit of a panel debate, no pitches from the vendors, and then 3 hours. Well, some people were there for nearly 5 hours, networking, knowledge sharing, and building relationships. And I know you've got something in the works that's very similar to that.
I'll try to. I don't know if I can put it for everybody. Maybe you can put
Drop
it
it in the
for
private chat. I can
Yeah,
drop it in. Yeah,
you can put it in. So this is the reason why I'm doing this skiing and snowboarding event with Tony and Jazz, and we basically want people to network. We're going to have sponsors. It's happening this Thursday in Ontario, in Canada. So sorry for people in Europe. Maybe next year we can fly to Europe and do it there. And we want people to network. We want people to talk to each other. It was funny because I was talking to someone that play golf. I'm like, hey, think about this. If you play in golf, you stuck the 3 people for like 3, 4, 5 hours.
Yeah.
And with this, every time you go up the hill, you can talk to different people. And then you can ski and snowboard together. And you can decide that you're not going to stay with them or you're going to continue talking to them. So you have the opportunity to connect with people. And they have amazing, cool sponsors on the event. But all of them that are doing the presentations actually cannot do a sales pitch. They have to tell a customer story. They have to explain how they help the customers and not just like, oh, our technology can interact with your AI.
Well, look, up above, that is the website. I've dropped the link in the chat. I'll drop it again now, just to make sure that you don't miss it. Have you got any spaces left?
No, we don't. No, we're done. We just basically like I'm going to the mountain tomorrow. We need to set up everything, so it's more of come, share, just let us know, and we'll see how it goes. Thanks God we have snow because 2 weeks ago there was a bit of a snow issue here in Canada and Ontario, but now we're all good with the snow.
That's good. Well, look, I hope it's an amazing event, and I look forward to seeing some pictures and some commentary on LinkedIn. I'm sure it'll be fantastic. Let me take that off the screen. We've mentioned one of your podcasts, which was the security architecture one, but I understand you've got another one as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yes. So there is another podcast called Cyber Inspiration. Security architecture is very, very, very technical, and it's basically explain how vendors interact and connect. And then some of my friends that are not in cyber told me, dude, you sound so smart. I have no idea what you're talking about, but it's so smart. And
I've felt the same for the last 40 minutes.
So when I left Herjavec last July, I was thinking what I wanted to do. And I decided to have so much experience working with vendors community and in managed services that I want to consult to MSSPs and vendors. This is what I do full time right now. I have several customers where I help MSSPs and vendors to become better, basically doing business enablement, understand what else they can do, services sell to support the customers better. As part of it, I wanted to connect with leaders and founders of vendors, but I also wanted to show a different story. So cyber inspiration, going to a vendor community mainly, and I'm talking to founders for around 20-25 minutes and trying to understand, like, Simon, why did you start this particular product? What was going on with you 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago? Did something didn't work? Did you hate your current job? Did you saw a need? Basically, what was your motivation to start this? Less about the history in the Israeli army or what they did before. And okay, you had an idea. Everybody has ideas. No, I have 5 ideas a day.
Yeah.
What do you do after? How do you do market validation? Who do you talk to? Why do you actually talk to people? Like, why people talk to you? How do you go and raise money later on? And the entire journey of them from the motivation of the idea to building the product, to start selling the product, to go to the next level. So this is cyber inspiration.
That sounds very interesting. Who have you had on? What sort of guests have you had on?
Oh, we had Avi from Orca Security. Axonio CEO was there. There's quite a lot of people from small companies and big companies as well. Some companies that literally came out of stealth as well. So it was quite cool as well.
It's really interesting. When I went to Black Hat Europe last year, I think it was December time, they had a very small startup section for the smaller firms. And these vendors, they look like startled rabbits standing next to their stands fielding questions. And I spoke to a few of them and asked very similar questions. What was the motivation? I think one of them had seen a need from a company he was working with, so he'd automated something with regards to pen testing. And the one thing they were all really struggling with, well, 2 things. One, the ones who had financial backing, whether it was PE or VC, they didn't really understand what that meant. They had concerns about it. They'd gone from being taken out for lunch regularly until they'd signed the contract to then having to do financial reports every Friday before they leave work and constant phone calls. And the other struggle that they've had is that route to market. And I think doesn't matter how much research you do, sometimes you need a little bit of help from a specialist when it comes to bringing things to market. And what are the biggest mistakes you see from new vendors in the marketplace on their, I suppose, their outreach, their routes to market?
A couple of things. I'm going to be depend on the founder. If the founder is technical, that the mistake is to realize they need a CEO, a sales CEO to lead the company, and they need to do the technical part. The sales CEOs, it's actually very, very interesting, is the ability to let go of the sales cycle. So they will be tapped in to all the first deals. They will be the first salesperson, but slowly they will have more salespeople coming, and they will need to let go and not join every call. And trust them, they're able to close the deals.
And how do they? I've been there with a previous business, and I've made that mistake, and I haven't achieved what you're saying. So the next question's a genuine one. How do you let go as a founder, and how do you build up a team around you that you can trust to do the job that you think only you can do? Because I think that's the mindset of some founders: is this is my baby, I know how to sell it, I'm the one who signed all the deals first. How do you change that?
You, in my mind, and I don't think there's like one way to do this, but one way, and funny enough, I'm taking a lot of stuff back to the army, because in the army you're doing a mission and you come back and you're doing a review of the mission, who did what, who did what mistakes. So first you let them join new calls and you let them see how you navigate the conversation. Later on, you ask them to sell to you or maybe work with you or ask you questions why you did blah, 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 or blah, blah, just sort the different things. Then you join calls with them. You let them drive the call and you maybe interact or interject from time to time. That's and then you do the debrief with the salespeople to say, hey, I interjected not because I'm not trusting you, because it was going here and here and here. Or you're going on a call and understanding, hey, is this call is real? Or just fishing for information, what's it going to close? So you kind of slowly, almost like teaching a baby to walk. You're holding, and then you let go, until you get to the point where like, okay, I'm not going to be on the call, but I'm going to be on Teams, on Slack, on WhatsApp. And if you need me, ping me and I'll join.
Like a comfort blanket. Yeah. I think for a lot of salespeople, that the hardest thing they find to start with is identifying which ones aren't good opportunities, and they spend too much time chasing down deals that are never going to come off or might be irrelevant. So again, that's where a founder can really step in and help to educate the workforce on what works.
Or hire a CRO, hire a very experienced sales leader that already been there, done this, understand that you align on the methodology, and just trust. Let them go.
Trust is the word, isn't it? It's building that trusted team around you so that that founder can go off with his family for the weekend and not have sleepless nights like I used to, worrying about the business.
But it's also, if I let go as a CEO of this particular part, then it gives me opportunity to build and advance the business to the next level, create better partnerships, find new way to venture, or find new customers on a bigger scale as well. Because in certain points on a very, very big deals, still the CEO probably will be part of it if it's a very, very big deal. Like even a part of Horjoy Group, we had deals where we had the CEO of a humongous company that didn't even expect to be part of it, because the deal would be like multi-million-dollar deal. They will interact and help close the deals because it was so complex.
Yeah, they'll always have to be there for that. Evgeniy, it's been absolutely amazing. We're pretty much out of time. Have you got any final words for our audience?
So first of all, thank you for the show you're doing. I think it's very amazing. It's very easygoing. You're an amazing host. I'm very happy that you surrounded by very nice people that joined us today and asked questions and interacted as well. So thank you for doing this. I think it's important. And I'm happy to be here. Please follow me on LinkedIn and follow the podcast. If you have any questions, I saw some questions about career started. Please ping me on LinkedIn later on. I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Just before we go, I'm going to re-drop in for anyone who's jumped on late the two links to Evgeniy's. One is to the snowboarding conference that he's got next week. Unfortunately, it is sold out, but you can watch the pictures. This one is the Cyber Inspiration podcast. And the final one is the Security Architecture podcast. For me, pretty much reiterating everything Evgeniy's just said, apart from how amazing I am. I'm obviously not going to say that. What Thank you for that. Really kind words. Thank you for all the audience for jumping in and engaging. It really, really does make a difference. Quick sales pitch at the end. If you're in Tampa Bay in Florida on March the 30th, it isn't snowboarding, but it is a relaxed evening of networking at the Eastlake Woodlands Country Club, sponsored by 360 Advanced and Ballast Risk, both of whom are technical cyber risk consultancies. So if you're interested in attending and you're a leader in the industry, please do reach out to me. Other than that, have an amazing day, everyone. Evgeniy, have fun snowboarding. Make sure you send me some pictures. See you all soon.